Oops, there we go. We are live now. Now I've got audio. And we're just going to wait for a few minutes for some folks to come in. And today we're going to take a look at some multi-gigabit hardware. Because I got in some more stuff. I was going to do this yesterday, but I was holed up with my my second vaccine dose, so we're doing yesterday's work today. So my boss is like, you got to work on a Saturday, so there you go. I'm the boss, by the way, in case you're wondering who the boss is. So I say hello to some folks. We've got Eugenius is here, Romeric is here, Dave Ramroop is here, Timothy Martin is here, Kevin Hawthorne is here, and Fred Ortega just started following on Amazon. Thank you for that. So yeah, this is going to be probably about an hour or two. I'm just going to be recording some B-roll because I got in this switch from QNAP on loan. And I also have one of their NAS boxes here too. This is the TS253D. And both of these support 2.5 gigabit Ethernet, which is, I think, going to become something you're going to see a lot more of in the very near future. Part of the reason is that 2.5 is easier to deploy with existing Cat5e wiring. I've got a lot of Cat5e in my house, and it's been rock solid at 2.5. And you might be asking, like, what's the reasoning behind going to 2.5? Well, it's basically faster than 1, right? So you have 1,000 megabits per second or 2,500. There you go. And if you're moving files back and forth from a network-attached storage device, it's the difference between 100 megabytes per second and 200 and change. So it's pretty good stuff. Got some more folks to say hello to. We have Jordan C. is here. Joseph Sakata is here. A nice Saturday afternoon. Yeah, kind of a low-key one. I was going to do the magazine opening today for one of those retro gaming magazines, but I wanted to do this yesterday, but I was down and out from my second shot. So we are going to do yesterday's work today, as I mentioned. App is wondering if I ever did the Flowbee. No, I didn't. And the reason is I actually found somebody who does outdoor haircuts, and they come to you. So that's what I've been doing. I am due for another one, but I'll talk to her and see if maybe we could use the Flowbee at some point in one of those haircuts. Amda Brown is here. Welcome. Good to see you as usual. And we're just going to open up some stuff here and see what we've got. So there's actually two versions of this switch. So, and they're both the same. This is the more expensive one. But it has the same capabilities as the lower cost one. So there's a desktop version and a rack-mounted version. This is the rack-mounted version, which costs about $100 more, but it's the same exact thing. There's no difference. And it's weird, they give you like 1/2 of the rack mount here, but not the other. Am I missing something? Yeah, that's it. Unless this is a rear mount. No, it wouldn't go there. Yeah, it's weird. They give you like 1/2 the rack. I'm not sure where this thing goes. This is this metal piece here. I'm trying to figure out where exactly it connects to. Maybe it's an adapter. But there's only one of these things. But this is the rack mountable one. But the rack mount is optional. Go figure. I need to read up on that a little bit. And then the desktop version, oh, here's like a little, I see, there's another piece in here that gives you the rack mount thing. I'll read up on the exact rack mounting procedure. So the difference between this one and the desktop one is that this one has a built-in power supply. It's in a metal versus plastic case, so it's a little more rugged. So this is something you would use kind of in a more industrial environment, right? Ooh, I love that plastic peel-off thing. So there you go. Oh, some questions about the second shot. Let me tell you, it's a doozy. I had a lot of symptoms. I had 100-something degree fever. I was chilly. My wife was having shivers. It was, here's how I'm going to talk about it on Monday on the wrap-up. We're going to call it, I call it getting sick without the ick, because you don't feel like you're actually sick, but you feel sick. It's kind of a weird thing. But it was a doozy. It was a doozy. So I would say the first one I had a little bit of a reaction to, like I was kind of foggy and my arm really hurt. This one felt like I was sick with something. So it was pretty good. So I'm feeling better today. I'm like 98% there. I was feeling much better when I woke up this morning, but I'm still feeling like another day might help me get back to 100%. But I will tell you what, one day is better than being sick for 2 weeks, right? So I'll take it. And they're not kidding when they say they're building durable immunity, because this is like kaboom. It really whacks you. But I'm glad that I got it. I got the Pfizer shot. And it was about 24 hours after the shot that I reacted to it. So I was like a little woozy ahead of that. And then I went to bed. My wife, I think, got hit with it first, with the symptoms first, because she was like I kept waking up because she was, I kid you not, she was shivering. She was so cold. So we both had a pretty good run. DPD17 on Amazon says, I was just watching my last video about the QNAP 10G devices 30 minutes ago, and all of a sudden I'm live with a new model. Yeah, it's funny how that works, isn't it? He got the notification on Amazon, but not from YouTube, and that's how it usually goes, isn't it? So it's good stuff. Yeah, I got to read up on it, because it's weird. You've got this rack mount thing. So you got this piece, and then you've got a little rack. I'm guessing maybe like one end extends it, perhaps. So here's the other piece. So I've seen these before. So you got this, and then you've got this. Unless it goes like, I'm not sure how it goes, to be honest. I'll have to read the instructions. How about we do that later? Before the video posts, I will have read the instructions and figure out exactly what this is. I mean, obviously this looks like something that would mount in a rack. But I was reading, yeah, so what's funny about it is that you've got these two pieces here, and then on the box it says you need to, oh, I see. Oh, okay, so you could fit two of these on a single rack mount for space-saving deployment if you get the 2-in-1 rack mount kit. So I guess you could mount two of these together. So I wonder if this piece is for that. I don't know. Let me look at the manual real quick. There's always a mystery with this stuff, right? So let's take a look and see here. Oh, okay. So it's got the rack mount, hardware installation. You can't get easier than this for installation, right? Let me scroll through the manual here and see if we can find. And it's so funny too to see all the different reactions that people get from this. So it's just like the virus itself. Like everyone has their own experiences with it. So there is nothing in here about how that rack mount thing goes. There's a rack mount kit in the box. Yeah, and it goes into German here, so I'll have to go and poke around with that a little bit. Thank you, Robert Van Edda, for your super chat. Yes, I'm going to be updating that soon. It actually takes me, believe it or not, it takes almost an entire day to get that generated, so I just have to get time to do it. I've been doing it about every 2 months. The challenge is I have so many places, and this is not a bad problem to have, but there's so many places that I get contributions from that I have to compile everything. And then some people donate twice, so I'm trying to dedupe it, and so yeah, it'll be updated soon. It's about every 2 months. And so even though that one says February, it was current as of the end of February. So we're going to get we'll get that going and fixed soon. But you will be on it when we get that. So yeah, I got to read up on exactly how you would rack mount this thing. Unless you know what this could be? I bet you, oh, I see what this is. All right, now I understand it. So what this does is it goes like this. So this part, yeah, so that part attaches there, and then you have the other piece there. So it'll be kind of like you have this spacer here. And maybe I'll put it on my rack and just show people what that looks like. So you could put two of them together, or you have this piece on this side and then that smaller piece on the other side, and that's how it goes. That's what it is. And as Greg M says, bingo, that's it. So that is how that goes. And yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to get this going here. And let me find the cable. Here it is. This is the power cable, so let's get that connected. Well, it is connected. Okay, so it's booted up. And the test that we're going to run on it first, we're going to do two tests, because what you see on here, and I'll zoom in a little bit, what you see on here are two different places to plug in your cabling. So what you've got is a bank of 2.5 gigabit ports, and this will support 1 gigabit and 100 too. It does it all. And then what you have over here are these are both 10 gigabit, and you can choose between using an SFP plus or just straight up Ethernet, RJ45. So you have a choice. But it's not 4 ports, it's 2. See, it's one or the other. So that's what we got there. YouTube is wondering, did anybody get Moderna? My mother and father both had Moderna, and they did fine. And around here where I live, it's just Pfizer seems to be what everyone's getting right now. Okay, so I got to find this Ethernet cable that I brought over from the equipment room. Let's go get that real quick. Okay, that's a HDMI. Where did I put that cable? Let's see. So I'm running this super long Ethernet cable, and we're going to have it, here it is. So we're going to have it terminate into here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in this into my network, and this we're going to connect at 10 gigabits to my switch in the closet over there. And we'll wait for it to negotiate. Hopefully that will happen quickly here. And what we'll do is log into my thing here. KF is asking about cost, and there are two costs to this. So and if you go on the link in the video description, it'll take you over to Amazon. Let me get you the exact pricing on these, because there's two of them. So this one is $399, and then the desktop version, which is exactly the same hardware, just in a different case. The desktop version is $299. And if you're curious as to what the desktop one looks like, I will show you. So let me pull that up for you real quick, and I'll show you what it looks like. So if you don't need a rack-mounted device, I think the desktop one is the one to get. So here is the desktop one. Hang on. I'm just pulling it up here. So this is the desktop one. And like I said, this is exactly the same. It's just in a different case. So you've got the same port layout, and you got the 8 2.5 gig ports. And this is a managed switch, layer 2, so you can do VLANs and all that stuff. We'll take a look at the control panel in a minute too. All right. And I just answered that question from Sharat. So again, if you click the link, you will have a get a price there. And right now, the one that's selling this one on Amazon is like a reseller, so you should not spend, let's see, this one should cost, so $3.99 is the most you should pay for this. Michael's favorite things. Moderna here for both shots and did great. Just a sore arm. Excellent. And Michael, thank you for following me too. And I have, the other one that I have, yeah, so, and DPD17 in the Amazon chat is pointing out that the one right now on Amazon for the rack-mounted version, this is a reseller. You can see it's not coming from Amazon. It's this IPC store. So this one, I would not buy this particular one at that price. It should be $3.99 tops. But the desktop one here is ships and sold from Amazon. And then upstairs, if you watch one of my older videos, I have a really nice switch of theirs that looks very similar. I think it's this one, or it's a version of this one. I'm just making sure I got the right one here. Yeah, this is the one I have upstairs, I think. Let's see if my video shows up. Yeah, this is it. So this one is the one that I have upstairs. And this one has 4 10 gigabit ports and then 8 gigabit. And this is what I use in my entertainment room upstairs. And the reason why I use this one is that most of the things that I have, like the Xbox and the TV and everything, they're only running at gigabit. So that, this is fine for that. So it backhauls downstairs at 10 gigabits. And then I've got my gaming PC in the back is a 10 gigabit adapter, so I'm going 10 gigs down to the basement equipment room over that. And then I've got my little Mac workstation in the same spot. That's also going 10 gig, but the rest of them are just running at gigabit, and I've got a free 10 gig port up there. So that's what I'm using. Bulldogger wants to know, can these get connected to game consoles? Yes, it can. And here's the thing with that is, all right, so, and I'll give you an example of why you might want to go with the one that I have, the other one. So upstairs, I've got my Xbox and my Nintendo Switch connected to this switch. And this is running with 4 10 gig ports, but then 8 gigabit. And what's nice about this is that I can maximize my internet connection because I have a 2 gigabit symmetrical connection here. Don't be jealous. And so if my Xbox is pulling a gig, then my Switch can pull another gig, for example, at the same time, because they're running at a gig each, that's the max, but I've got a 10 gig backhaul downstairs. So you could totally plug in to any of these ports gigabit without question. However, when you're looking at this one, if you don't have a lot of 2 gig devices to interconnect, it's probably overkill, right? Because if the max that you've got is a gigabit, there's no point, right, in using a switch with 8 2 gigabit ports if you don't need to, but it's backwards compatible, so I could easily plug in a gig connection there. Michael's favorite things. Wow, look at all those older Mac and Apple products behind you. Yeah, these are old ones, and actually some of these are the ones that I own. So that Apple IIgs is my original from when I was a kid. I got to do some work on it soon. And then I've got my Kensington mouse that I had with it. The Mac next to it I bought on eBay a number of years ago, but most of the stuff behind me is all my old stuff from childhood. It's pretty cool. Charles G says, I don't understand the desktop form factor. Do other manufacturers have these? I think like Netgear and a few others have some more plastic types of devices. And I think for QNAP, they've been, I think, a little better about looking for consumer opportunities. So I think that's probably what they're going with there. And App says I have way more viewers on Amazon than YouTube. Yeah, that's what happens. I usually stream on, that's why I started streaming, was I was getting so much more traffic on Amazon. So Amazon is a bit more friendly for this stuff, for me at least. And Joseph says, a switch connected to a switch. It is switchception. Yeah, you know what I did is I have a Ethernet, I have a little USB to gigabit Ethernet on my switch dock upstairs. And my philosophy is to try and get everything hardwired wherever I can, and that takes the traffic off the Wi-Fi network. And granted, I don't generate a lot of traffic here, but it's something that I like to do. KF wants to know, does 10 gigabit work for a home network? It depends what you're pushing over it. I mean, I am fine at 2.5 gig. In fact, most of the spots where I have faster speeds are at 2.5. I think 10 gig makes sense if you're copying files frequently. If you wanted to edit video off a network-attached storage device, that would be useful. What's nice about, when you get a faster internet connection, so one of the challenges, and I have a video about this, that whole series actually, one of the challenges that I had was that when I got this new internet connection, my home network at that moment was all gigabit, but I was bringing in a 2 gigabit speed into the house in both directions. It's symmetrical. So that was kind of a fun challenge because suddenly my internet connection is faster than my local LAN connection. So my network switch in the closet can do a maximum of 10 gig. So it's basically out there as a 10 gig device. I've got a couple of other switches that I bought to kind of interconnect things. And so let's say the Xbox is pulling a gig, I can have something else pull another gig, right? So that's where having a little more backhaul bandwidth is useful. But I think for a lot of folks right now, 10 gig is probably more than most people need, which is why I think QNAP is trying to ride the line of cost versus fully 10 gig. So if this was all 10 gig, that would be a much more expensive product. And Dave Tuttle switched back to YouTube from Amazon Live. The video quality here is better, but if Amazon is the only one who notifies me, shrug. Yeah, so Amazon does 720p max, and I broadcast to YouTube at 1080p because I have the bandwidth to do that now, so that's what I do. Sim Architect says hello. And Mibro used those Macs in school until grade 11, and they switched to Windows. Yeah, a lot of schools did around a certain period of time. And Christian, yep, exactly what I was saying. Go to 10 gig NAS, that's when it works. And actually, we're going to set this up in a little while, too. I've got a 2.5 gig NAS right here. Can't get it in frame, but you get the idea. Anthony installed Cat6 cables. This might be the one to get. Yeah, this is a good one. I think this will work. And actually, like I said, upstairs, I have a QNAP switch in my in a part of the house where I've got my laptop connected. So I have one of theirs over there, and I've got one up in the spare bedroom. The cost is much better than the UniFi stuff for multi-gigabit, for sure. Gladys wants to know, what's the audience for this? I would say a home networking enthusiast. I'm getting a lot more interest in multi-gigabit stuff. I can just check my viewership on my YouTube videos. So I know a lot of people now are thinking that they want faster speeds. And so if you're doing a lot of network file transfers, that's where having an extra bit of speed will help, because this is more than twice as fast as what you'd have with a gigabit network if you're using one of the 2.5s here. Hal is here. Hello. Bernie installs their game library on a remote NAS. Yep, so that can work, especially older titles. I've got a lot of my emulator ROMs on that. That works fine for those. So they load in once and they're done. No, I do not have a 10 gig adapter. I just plug it into the gigabit. That's why I was saying that this is probably overkill for Xboxes and stuff, because you're not going to be able to make use of the ports at their full speed. This is not a PoE switch. And 10 gig switches are expensive everywhere. So this one just has two 10 gig ports on it. Bulldogger wants to know, what do I think of the TripLite U360 007? I have no idea. Let's look at that. What is that? Is that a network switch? What's a USB hub? I have never used that, so I can't comment on it, but I would say typically that USB hubs tend to work about the same, and TripLite's a good brand. So I would be comfortable if I was looking for a USB hub, I would probably look at that. Zagar Vanguard is here. Hello to you. All right, so we're going to do a little speed test now. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect this to my Mac. This is a Thunderbolt 3 10 gigabit adapter. And before I do that, I just want to verify that that this is connected at 10 gigs. I think it is because it's blinking green, but I just want to double check that. So we're going to go into my UniFi control panel here, and let's see if if we are indeed connected at that rate, because this should show up as a. Actually, I can check on the device itself. Give me a second here, folks. I'll show you what I'm looking at. So we're going to connect to my US16 XG. That's my vMix system. That's the living room. Okay, so here we go. Yeah, so I can verify. Let me just double check my thing here. So I can verify that we are connected to this. And because this is lit up, it's kind of a weird thing on this Unify switch that I have. If it's gray, it's off. If it's green, it's gigabit. And if it's white, it is 10 gig. So we have a 10 gig connection between this switch and the rest of my network. So I know we've got that. And now we're going to connect up my 10 gig Thunderbolt Ethernet adapter here to my Mac. And I'm going to plug it in first to this port because I want to see if we can get 10 gigabits transferred. And I'm going to actually do that data transfer to the other side of the house where I've got a PC connected at 10 gigs also. So we're going to connect this first. And if that lights up green, we'll know that we have a 10 gig connection. Mark Dell says, wait, I'm not at work. Yeah, I took yesterday off, Mark Dell, because I was recovering from my Pfizer shot 2. I was going to do this yesterday, but I was under the weather. My boss let me take the day off. Okay, so now we've got that connected, and we're going to run over to my iPerf test here. And I'm just going to set up a recording because I am going to do a little video about this switch. And we're going to record a few of the tests that we're going to run. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to run a test upstairs at 10 gigabits. And we're going to see if this will transmit at that speed. So I'm going to hit record here. And this is a little client on the Mac called Wi-Fi Perf, but it's basically doing an iPerf test. And I am not pleased yet with what I see here, so we've got to fix something. And actually what's happening is it's going over my Wi-Fi, so we got to fix that. So let me go and adjust the. So here's another little trick for you, because I'm running into this now all the time. On the Mac, you got to set your service order. And so, for example, actually what's interesting is that this is not even showing up at all on my Mac at the moment. I may have to reboot the Mac. Let me pull this out and pull it back in again. Bear with me for 1 second here, folks. Sometimes on the Mac, there's this bug on the Mac OS, whatever version, 11, that it doesn't see my Thunderbolt adapter, but it works with it anyhow. And what was happening just a second ago was that it was, let's see if I can get it connected here. Hang on 1 second. Okay, we're on the network. Yeah, so my Mac is like not even saying that anything's connected to it, but it's actually working. So I'll run with it. All right, so we're going to try this again. And let me just reset. Oh, I had an errant recording there. So I'm going to reset the test. And now, because we're on the Thunderbolt adapter, we should get the speed I'm looking for. So we're going to start the test now. Now we should see this running much faster, because before it was like 200 megabits. Yeah, so now we're getting, look at that. So we're getting the full 10 gigs basically out of this. And this is running upstairs to my PC on the other side of the house. And that's what we're getting. That's pretty good, right, folks? And part of this is getting traversed over Cat5. And I found that if you have a short enough Cat5 run, which that backhaul line is, you can get away with 10 gigs on Cat5e. It's just a matter of distance. You can't go too far. But there you go. Michael's favorite things. I'm just reading through your comment here. Michael's favorite things is asking about switching back and forth between a Mac and PC with a widescreen monitor. I actually do that with a widescreen monitor upstairs. What I ended up doing is I bought one of these, and I have a review of it on my Amazon page and in my thing there. I've got a review of an IO Gear switch box, and I use that to switch between. So I've got the webcam, keyboard, and mouse on that. And then what I ended up doing, just for simplicity, is I have the Mac hooked up to one of the ports on the monitor and the PC hooked up to another, and that's what I use. So I just kind of flip back and forth. Michael's favorite things on my Amazon store. Yeah, if you go to my Amazon store page and just scroll through there, you're going to see an IO Gear switch box. And again, that just does the USB part. But if you've got the same monitor I do or something similar, it's got multiple ports for video, I just plug in the Mac into a separate thing. And on the Mac, I have one of those docks, one of those docking stations. So I just plug in a single Thunderbolt cable, hit the switch on the switch box to get the keyboard and mouse integrated, and I'm good to go. Amazon customer wants to buy my Mac in the background. It is not for sale because I'd have nothing back there to play with. So, all right. I am so dehydrated from yesterday. Okay, now. What I'm going to do next is we're going to test the speed of the 2.5 gig port. So what we're going to do is unplug the Thunderbolt thing from here, and we're going to just stick it in one of the 2.5 ports. And this Ethernet adapter will negotiate 10 and 5 and 2.5 and 1. So whatever it's plugged into, it'll negotiate the highest speed that that port can support. And right now, it's plugged into a 2.5 gigabit port. So if I go and run this test again, you will see it running at a slower speed, but still faster than gigabit. So again, we're running data upstairs to my computer. And we'll let it settle down here for a second, and then it will, there it goes. So that's running a little bit slower. And sometimes I found, like, if the computer upstairs is doing something, that might impact its performance a little bit. So I'm going to let this run again. This one might be one I have to look at Ethernet adapters and stuff again to see what we get. We're still doing better than gigabit, but we should be seeing a little bit more than what we're getting right now. And so what I might do is go to one of my other computers and grab one of the other adapters and see if it's maybe just the Ethernet adapter here that doesn't like negotiating at that speed. Because it should be probably about 2,300 or thereabouts. I mean, it's still better than what we saw, than just gigabit, but it's not as fast as I expect it to be. ST Reviewer, consider reviewing the TrendNet 8-port unmanaged 2.5 gig switch. Send me a link to that. I'd love to see that if there's something like that. So I've been getting a lot of interest in these 2.5 gigabit devices. Let's reverse the order here and see if it goes quicker on the other way. So before we were pushing from server to client. Yeah, here you go. This is better. And I got to adjust. There's some settings somewhere that are out of whack on that PC upstairs, so that's what I've got to fix. But you can see here that we're getting the speed that I expect to get. And the reason why this is slower is because we're on the 2.5 gig port and not on the 10 gig port. So let's stop the recording. And then what I'll do here is I'll switch it back. So we'll pop it out of here and plug that in here. And now we've gone from 2.5 back to 10. And so if we go and run the test again at 10, you'll see we're back to that faster speed. So it's a difference between a 2 gig port and a 10 gig port right there. Then you may ask, why is it not faster? Shouldn't we get like an extra 600 megabits per second? Well, you got overhead. So the overhead always limits your true speed. And actually, I'm running through like 2 or 3 different switches right now. So I've got a switch in the closet. That goes upstairs to another switch, and then it goes to the Mac or to the PC that's on the desk up there. All right, so the next thing we need to do, let me zoom the camera out a little bit, is we're going to unbox this. NAS because I thought it might be a fun visual, since they let me borrow this too. Might be a fun visual to see some of the speed that you can get out of a 2.5 gig NAS. So this one is specifically designed for 2.5 gigabit networks. It'll work on slower ones too. And like all QNAP devices, this one's kind of neat actually, because it has, in addition to a 2.5 gig port, it has a PCIe expansion port on it too. So you can go to faster Ethernet if you wanted to do that. Now, it looks like there are 2 ports. I think only one of them is 2 gigabits. I think the other one is single gigabit, but I'll double check that. And it's got HDMI, because these do have a display output also. And let me put a link for, actually, you know what I'll do, Michael, I will add it to the product carousel here in a second. Let me go do that real quick, because that might be an easier way to go about it. Let me find it real quick, and I will take a look at that for you. Oops. Give me 1 second here, folks. And bear with me, folks. Let me just scroll through here real quick and get the product number for Michael here. Well, I've reviewed a lot of stuff since then. I can't, you know, it's funny, like I do so much reviewing that it's hard to like keep track of, oops. So this is the 4x4 USB. Yikes, there's so many of these things. This is a 4x4. And we'll get that going. Yeah, that's 2x4. Hang on. And if we go to, here's the, I'll show you the page here. So this is the one here, the IO Gear peripheral sharing switch. And I have the 4x4 USB 3 model. And I'll add that to the product carousel so you can find it more easily. So I'm going to do it right now. And we'll click Add to Stream. And now it's on the stream. So you should see that in the carousel. I'll highlight it right now. And there you go from there. And Michael sent me the link to that unmanaged 2.5 gig switch. This is great to start seeing more of this stuff. So I'll try to check that out too. You can never have too many network switches. Now with this one, this NAS device here, these don't usually come with hard drives installed, so we have to put some hard drives in. And this particular one has an Intel processor, so this would work. This is a J4125. So this one's going to be a hot little ticket. It costs, let me get the price on it. This is the, do I have the right one listed? This is the X53, 253D. I've got the wrong one in the product carousel, so let me update that too. Because it looks like they've got a few other ones. So I'm going to take out, actually let me add the other one first. So this is the TS253 253D. This is a dual drive NAS device. Now this is a little more expensive than the one I have linked. Without disks and 4 gigabytes of RAM, this one sells for about $400. So it's about the price of a mini PC, which is to be expected. That's typically what these go for. So I'm actually just going to go in and take out the other one, because I think the other one was a little bit different. And I'm just going to move this up a little bit. All right, so now that we're there, let's return to the live stream, because I'm going to have a separate review of the NAS device, and we'll give that a shot. And Jeremy is recommending downloading the FCC Speed Test app on Android Play Store and iOS for an accurate speed test. And you know what's funny, though, about that test is that a lot of people are going to be running that on Wi-Fi. And to really get a good assessment as to your overall internet speed, you're going to want to get that device connected to Ethernet, because everyone's Wi-Fi is going to vary based on conditions and how far they are from their access point. I'm not sure that is going to give the FCC the information they're looking for. I have found my connection really is a 2 gigabit symmetrical, but I'm finding that there's a lot of places that I visit that can't meet the speed. You know what I mean? Like they just don't have the capacity to be able to deliver data as quickly to me. Now it turns out I've got some hard drives here from another project. I'm not sure if I have used these or not, but I've got two 4 terabyte Iron Wolves here, which we're going to install in this. And I don't even know who sent these to me. I think QNAP might have a while ago. But we're just going to stick them in there. And you could put SSDs in one of these, but the reason why you don't is because you want to maximize, at least I don't, is you want to maximize the amount of storage that you can get in there. And what I typically do is mirror the drives. In other words, we're not going to have 8 terabytes, we're going to have 4, but the data is going to be mirrored on each drive. And what we're doing right now is just setting up this NAS so that I can do a speed test to demo the differences between a NAS that's running with 1 gigabit versus one that runs with 2. Because that's often the question that we even got during this live stream, is like, why do you need this? And as I'm sure a lot of us tech enthusiasts know, you really don't need anything, but you'll want the faster speed. Well, I guess sometimes you need the faster speed. Michael says, my place is fiber and it's mounted high up near the crown moldings. There's no way to hardwire anything anymore. Yeah, that's the problem when you've got houses that have, especially like plaster and stuff, it's hard to get into the walls. All right, so that's in. And we're going to stick this drive in. It's pretty easy to work with, actually. I put it in the right way, though. Yeah, it goes in this way. And it's got some plastic to peel off of here. It's got a lot of shiny parts. I like shiny. And the NAS here will be a second review. So this is going to be demoed in the video for the Switch, but there's a lot of this plastic stuff in there. There we go. I missed a lot of comments here, so let me see if I can get to pick up some of these that I missed earlier. And first of all, thank you, Mark Dell. Yes, I do feel much better today. So getting that shot was great. So hopefully I'll feel better forever. I haven't even had so much of a sniffle in the last year and a half because I've been Wi-Fi'd and socially distanced and everything else. Sharon wants to know, is there a Wi-Fi load balancer? Like if I wanted to make one connection or 3 or more Wi-Fi connections and give it to my... The best thing to do there is I do this in my house. I put everyone on the 2.4 gigahertz network and I reserve the 5 gigahertz network to myself. That's what I did. Barnaba says maybe get a longer 5e to see how long it will still work. You could, the recommended maximum length, I believe, for 10 gig over Cat5 is about 50 feet. Beyond that, you're going to want to be careful about it. Clean 937 Samuel, good to see you again, and thank you for the super chat. Much appreciated. And Matthew's getting his home internet upgraded tomorrow from 1 gig to 2 gig, but all of my wired devices are still just gigabit. Exactly, and that was, so I've got a playlist that you should check out because I spent a lot of money and a lot of time. So I had just like one network switch for the whole house, and that was perfectly fine. Now I've got a whole rack full of stuff to be able to accommodate the speeds that I got out of the new connection. So it's going to be a fun project to get yourself going. And that's where it's good to see this stuff come down in price because with your internet connection, you don't need 10 gig everywhere. You just need 2.5. So what I did is I bought a bunch of, there's a bunch of cheap 2.5 gigabit USB adapters out there that work just fine. So I bought a bunch of those. Pluggable has some. I think QNAP has one too. And so that's how I'm connecting most of the time to the network with those cheaper USB devices. And then upstairs I've got one of these Thunderbolt adapters working with that. All right, so this is connected. Now these are not plug and play devices per se, these things, so you need to kind of get them configured. I happen to have another cable here. Now remember, this one is 2.5 gigabits. And I'm just looking on, let me look at the other box here, see what else we get. Because there's also a power cable, little power brick that you need to attach to it. So what else do we get in the box here? Let me pull off the lower third here. I don't have a lot of desk space to play with on the desk here. All right, so they give you some cables. I'm assuming Cat 6 cables. Let's see. These are UTP. Oh, you know, it's funny. They only give you Cat 5e, but one of the things with 2 gigabit networks is that you don't need anything more than Cat 5 for 2.5. I mean, you should probably, if I was installing tomorrow, I would do Cat 6 just so that you're future-proofed. But 2 gigabit is fine over Cat 5e. And I think at the same distances too. All right. So let's put this in here. And we'll get the other power cable connected. And I got Michael's favorite things. There a link to my YouTube channel. Yeah, the best way to go is to go to Lon.TV, and you can subscribe to me on YouTube over there. And most of my content I put up on Amazon the same day or earlier than I put up on YouTube. So you should be able to get me in both places. The things that don't go on Amazon are the things that are not linked to products. So some of my commentary videos and stuff, those won't be on Amazon. Although if there's a product linkage to a commentary video, which I did the other day with projectors, that'll go up on both. All right, so let's plug this in here, and we'll turn this sucker on. And you can see my lovely cable management at work here. So this is a nice little NAS, I think. I'm going to do more on the NAS later, so we'll probably do a video kind of messing around with some other stuff. And marked out, yeah, so that's the one thing, you know, I don't like to put these things out in front of my firewall. I leave everything behind the VPN. So that's one thing to be aware of, is that both Synology and QNAP, because they're so heavily installed, it's easy to write scripts to go and poke around and see what you can find. So multi-factor authentication, the default admin password on these is admin, so you're going to want to change that. right? So there's a couple of things that you can do, but the best thing you can do is just put it behind a firewall. You know, and so if it's not accessible, like for me, I can get to it outside if I'm on my VPN, but that's it. Anthony Biacco, has anything started smoking yet? Not yet. It happens, though, here all the time. Actually, not all the time, sometimes. That's what makes for good TV, as they say. All right, so let's go and find it on the network here, QFinder Pro. They have a link that you can go to. So I don't have to download software. What I'm going to do, actually, is just get the IP address of this thing on the network. And that will help me get it configured. Because you have to log into a web page to get these things set up. So bear with me, folks. I just got to find the IP address of this sucker. And I think it might be this one. Let's take a look. This is the switch, so it's not that one. Bear with me here. Here it is. There's another one here. I got QNAPs all over the place. So this one is, oh, now it's up and running. Okay. I'm just looking for the IP address for this one. And it looks like it's at 2.5. You know what I want to do real quick is I just want to see what happens if I plug in the other one here. Let's see. Will this run at a slower rate, or is it both 2.5? So we should see a different color. I think they're both 2.5. I'll need to confirm that. Because you could do some cool stuff. Like you could, theoretically, if it's got two 2.5s on here, you could, and your switch supported it, and I think this one does, you could set up a, you could do link aggregation, and you could have two ports kind of aggregate into one. By the way, you're not supposed to do what I just did there, which is move it while the hard drives are running. All right, so let's try this. service.qnap.com/install. Let's see what we get there. Okay, here we go. It found it. So it's at 2.108. So I'm just going to connect to this real quick. And so what happens here initially is that it needs to install firmware and stuff. So we have to hit start and have it go through that whole process. So this will take a minute or two to get that going. So we'll do that. And while that's going, I'll take some more questions here. William Wilkinson wants to know what is wrong with Cat5 and Cat5e cables. So the big difference is that Cat6 is rated for faster speeds because there's less interference and crosstalk between the twisted pairs. So there's more insulation between the wires, so you don't have data drop-offs at higher speeds. So if you think about it, Cat5 has been around for like 20 years, right? So it was designed for 100 and for gigabit networks, kind of on the maximum side. But I'll tell you, I have not had problems. I mean, I'm running 10 gigabit over, so I have 10 gig running from down here. So it's a shorter cable. I think it's probably maybe 15 or 20 feet from down here to the room upstairs. And then when it gets into that switch, I'm running Cat6 to all the clients. So we're not going all the way the full distance with Cat5, but the backbone is Cat5, no problem. And then I've got the spot in the midpoint of the house. I actually ran a Cat6 cable for that. So that's a longer distance. I'm so thirsty. I drank like 4 bottles of water and a whole Gatorade yesterday. It's pretty. I was so dehydrated. This is from the shot. I was so dehydrated, and I just could not stop drinking water. and Gatorade and everything else. All right, so it is now restarting. Just looking on the screen here. Yeah, so it's restarting, so we're gonna let that restart. And then what I'll do is I'll just show you like what happens when you copy a file, right? Because it'll copy a lot faster. Jeremy says, what would it take to upgrade to Cat 8? He recently replaced all of the cables to Cat 8. It would take a lot. You know, I mean, if you've got, at least in my house it would, because I've got all the walls are up, right? So, and Cat 8 cable I think is thicker and harder to work with. So, you know, I would say for most people, Cat 6 is going to be fine. I guess if you really want to plan ahead and are anticipating 40 gigabit connections down the road, you know, putting in the best cable you can makes sense, right? So David Tuttle here put in with Cat 8.1, right? So you could do those faster speeds when it gets to that point. And it is backwards compatible, it's true. In fact, the computer that you're watching me on has a Cat 7 or 8 cable running back to a Cat 5 interconnect back to the room over there. So it's really a matter of cost. Like when I did this place, and this wasn't that long ago, this is about 4 years ago, I have 4 terminations on every wall because I do a lot of networking stuff, obviously. But also a lot of what I do involves NDI video, and I was anticipating that being something I would do a lot of. So the cost difference between Cat 6 and Cat 5, given the length of cable that I needed, was a big difference. I kind of regret not doing Cat 6 because in the grand scheme of things in regards to how much the project cost down here to do my basement over, it was probably the lowest cost component, but I was just writing checks every week to the contractor. I was like, you know, I'm so sick of paying all this money. And it was going to be a couple $100 difference. And I just said, go with the Cat 5. And I kind of regret that now. But the distance, though, between, like, I don't think I've got more than 25 feet of cable at any point in this room. So maybe the far end over there is a little bit more. So I could get away with 10 gig over most of the network here. All right, so I'm just waiting for the NAS to reboot. And we'll pick this up from where we go. And Joda makes a good point here. Yeah, so the one that we're looking at here, the 253, has the PCI Express slot. So you could put in, and maybe I'll take it apart in the full review. So you could put in a 10 gig card in there if you wanted to, or run a dual NVMe SSD. I may have some fun with this one. I think I might buy this and kind of have it replace my, I have like a NAS that I use for media. So I have a MyCloud PR2100. But this also supports Docker and everything else too. So in many ways, it's a lot like the Synology. I found that Synology is a little bit easier to work with from an interface standpoint, but I'm really curious to see how they implement Docker on this, because if they've simplified Docker versus Synology, it might have some value there for me. Anatoly, thank you for the kind comments on Amazon. And yeah, we're just waiting for things to reboot here. Indexin, any updates on the all controller? I got nothing on that. And I'll tell you what, I have stopped looking at Kickstarters until they are done or I know the company can deliver. Because I don't think it's ever going to be a product. I mean, I got mine, and a lot of other people got theirs, but I don't really want to review it until you can get one because I don't know if they're going to be able to deliver it as a final product. Joda said they're also coming out with a new dual 2.5 gigabit. Oh, that's pretty cool. That's neat. So it's all in one. That's a neat idea. Yeah, QNAP is doing, it's funny because you always think of QNAP as a storage company, but they have been doing more to bring down the price of multi-gigabit than I think anyone else has been doing on the market right now. Philip is using MikroTik switches and eBay 10 gigabit cards. Won't bother with 2.55 until the price makes sense. Yeah, it's a matter of what you need and where you need it. If you can affordably get your 10 gig going, then you're fine. You probably don't even need to go to 2.5. For me, because I have a lot of Cat5 wiring and because I have older computers, the 2.5 is fine for most of what I do. But like I said, like my main stuff. So this computer that I'm streaming from right now is running at 10 gig. The one upstairs that we were just running tests against, that one's on 10 gig. So I've got a lot of 10 gig around, and then all the other ones that don't need the full 10, I've got the 2.5. And Charles here says, I can't see ever needing more than 100 megabit. And for some people, that's all they need, right? If you've got like a 100 megabit, 20 up internet connection, right? You don't need more than 100, do you? That's true. Exactly. And this switch cannot do PoE. So this one is just a straight up switch. I have a PoE switch in the closet. I've got all the Unify stuff. We're going to talk about their security breach soon. So I think I've got more information put together now about what went on over there. I like the convenience of PoE because I have a camera that's an NDI camera for the studio, and I can just plug in and boom, off and running. And we're just waiting for this thing to come back up. And we're going to get things configured here. Okay, looks like we are ready to go. So now it is asking me about my smart installation system. So I'm going to click on that to get going. And we're good on the firmware. I think I'm just checking for the update. Yeah, we're good there. So I'm just looking through everything here. Sometimes it puts my IP address up, so I'm being really careful about. So we're going to call this QNAP25. And it's going to set up a password here also for it. And by the way, one of the things that I'm going to recommend people do, this is to Mark Dell's point, is that you see how it defaults to this admin as the username. So if you're exposing your QNAP to the internet, if you wanted to access it remotely, for example, you want to be careful to create a new administrator and disable this one, because by default it's admin. So right out of the gate, your security is compromised by 50% because people can guess the username. So you want to have a strong password and a strong username so that people can't guess, right? So that's something to think about there. I'm just going to go through and configure the rest of this stuff here. Question on Amazon. Is it worth, this is from John Z, is it worth it, though, to limit yourself to 2.5 when for a few dollars more you can get an 8-port managed 10 gigabit hubs with 2.5? It's all a matter of what you need. You're right, John. I mean, I think if you can find, so I think what's going to happen is I think the 2.5 stuff is going to be short-lived because right now it's expensive to get, I think, a 10 gig switch with this many ports, unless you know of one, or it's coming down to the point, because I think for a while the 10 gig stuff was just completely out of reach and the 2.5 was affordable enough. But you're right, it's not going to be long before 2.5 and 5 dedicated devices are going to be, kind of going by the wayside. I agree with you on that. And so John just sent me a link to a TrendNet switch. And this one, yeah, the prices are starting to come down, I think. Yeah, this one's like $539 and it's unmanaged. So this supports all of those modes. It looks like a pretty good one, actually. And there's a 16-port one also, which costs, let's see what the 16-port one is, currently unavailable. Probably due to all of those electronic shortages, right? But that's not a bad price. And that's come down a lot because I wasn't seeing, I haven't really looked for a switch in about 3 or 4 months. But that's a pretty good price. So yeah, I mean, if that's going to work for you, for some folks, if they have a bunch of gigabit stuff, this might be more cost effective, right? But no, I'm with you. Thanks for the link. Oh, that one's managed. That's not a bad deal. Not a bad deal. All right, so I'm going to obtain my IP address automatically. All right. So we are good to go here. I'm just going to get this thing, initialized. And so now the NAS is getting itself set up. So we'll let that run. And I'm thinking about how I'm going to demo the file transfer, because I'll need to get a Windows computer on the desk to do that. I have one over there. I'll just use that one. All right, we'll let that finish up. Will Burton, thank you for the follow. And John Z says, yeah, I'm looking to update including my NAS. It seems to be a good time. Yeah, I think we're getting to the point where this multi-gigabit stuff is plentiful and affordable, for sure. And we'll get to a point where you'll buy something like this and every port will be 1 or 100, 1, 2.5, 5, and 10, right? And I think that time is coming pretty soon, so for sure. And like I said, the switch that I have upstairs is, it's got 4 10 gig ports, another QNAP one, 4 10 gig, and then 8 1 gig. And for the devices that I have plugged into that one, it's perfectly fine, because my TV, my Xbox, my Switch, like all the stuff that's hooked up there is all gigabit. So it doesn't make sense to have a 10 gig switch port if you can get, for $250, get 4 10 gigs and 8 1 gigs, right? I think it's all a matter of just matching the hardware for what you need. But I like the fact that this is upgradable. That's kind of a neat idea, that you could start with, especially on a relatively low cost one, start with 2.5 and then upgrade to 10. Will Burton, thank you for the follow on Amazon. Jape wants to know, I played with the QNAP SD-WAN stuff. I don't even know what that is. What is SD-WAN? It's all these new things that I learn about when I do my live streams. Auto Mesh VPN. Oh, that's interesting. Well, that's kind of neat. It's like a distributed VPN system. Multi-site VPN with SD-WAN. Ooh, I got to play around with that. See what you get me into? It's almost to the point where I wish I had more than one place to work. Will Burton is looking for a 1 gigabit with a 10 gigabit uplink. Yeah, so the one that I got, if you go in on Amazon, let me find the part number. Let's see if I can put it in there. 10 GBE switch. I'll show you the one that I use upstairs. Yeah, this is the one that I have. So this one is $239. And let me just copy the link here for you. It's not letting me copy. There it goes. Let's see. Yeah. So that's the one that I have upstairs. So what you got, and there's a few different versions of it. Actually, no, I'm sorry. This is the one I have. I have the 4 additional, whatever. You can see what I'm looking at. They've got a couple different configurations of this one. But this one, what's nice about this one is that it's perfect for backhauling at 10, giving you some options to connect a few others at 10, but then the rest are gigabit. So here, I'll pull this up on screen for you. So I've got my Xbox. I'll pull off the lower third here. So I've got my Xbox and my Nintendo Switch and all that stuff and the TV. They're hooked up on those 8 ports there. Those are just gigabit. And then I've got the backhaul on the far right one running downstairs at 10. I've got 2 computers hooked up to it at 10, and then I've got a free port up there. And that one's been working great. It's really good. So that one might be the one to look for. All right, let me see what's happening here. We're just waiting for this thing to finish up its install. And so right now it's just going through and applying all the settings and stuff. So let that run. Yeah, all this is just to capture a really quick, really quick demo of something. That's all we're trying to do here. Jeremy says, should I upgrade again or call ASUS about my speed issues? Are you having issues over your wired network, Jeremy, or on your Wi-Fi? And Nick here, so this is a very good point that Nick brings up too. And I get these questions a lot. Like, why not just build your own? And you can, but you know, what's nice about this and the Synologies and some of the other ones out there is that, you know, these are appliances and they get updated. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to do much with them. I mean, obviously I would log in and make sure that it's up to date on all of its updates every once in a while. But, you know, like you need, and I look at it this way. My job is to make videos, right? So if the back end of what I do prevents me from making videos because I've got to maintain my own hardware and software, that takes me off track, right? And sometimes, yeah, I could make a video about making my own NAS, but at some point it goes into production and now it's part of the routine. So what's been nice about so for example, my Synology NAS that I use for my main storage, you know, it sits in the back room over there just chugging away, and it updates itself, and it just is there when I need it. I don't have to think about it. And I do check up on it. I have in my head a little weekly maintenance schedule just to make sure all the updates got installed and stuff. But generally, just does its thing. And that's why, like, you might want to look at something like this versus something that you manage yourself, because they can be fun projects, but it could be a challenge. And a Raspberry Pi in particular, you won't have the network performance that you would get if you did it on a PC or something like that. And that's something that Charles points out here. But a small form factor PC might be, a better way to go. And Terry says, so boot time for a newer product. Yeah, the boot times are always going to be an issue, especially when you first configure them. Paul Bakewell is here. Now, Jeremy says his problems are both Wi-Fi and wired. And it's hard to say, Jeremy, without knowing exactly what how your network is set up. There's a lot of factors that can go into network speed. I've been really happy. I don't like what happened with their recent security breach, but I've been very happy with the UniFi stuff because it seems to be working very reliably here for me. I've got the Dream Machine Pro, the UDM Pro. Especially for the speed that I have, it's been working very, very well. So I've been happy with that. Thomas Anfang wants to know, what's a good entry-level NAS for Plex? You want one with an Intel processor. This one would actually do pretty well. This is the TS253D. You're going to spend more for a good Plex device like this because you need to have that Intel processor inside. So the Synology DS220 Plus is pretty good. I think that one's got an Intel. Yeah. So the Synology DS220 Plus is pretty good. That's about $300. This one's about $400, as we just saw. But that's kind of like the bare bones entry point for a Plex-capable NAS. You need that Intel processor, especially if you're doing transcoding. If you're not transcoding, you can buy a super cheap NAS and just run Plex and have it transfer data back and forth, but the other stuff costs more. Another Amazon reviewer says, would I recommend the Dream Machine Pro? I'm doing large file transfer every day for my work, along with a lot of in-home game streaming and movies. I would recommend the Dream Machine Pro, provided you have a fast internet connection that's north of a gigabit, or is a gigabit. And I would suggest, though, if you get the Dream Machine Pro, that you also get a switch to go with it, because the switch that's built into the Dream Machine Pro has, if I'm not mistaken, only a gigabit of aggregate bandwidth for the Ethernet ports. So you do get a 10 gig SFP plus on that, but the gigabit Ethernet ports on the Dream Machine Pro do not make, like if you were transferring gigabit between 2 points on your network, it'll saturate the switch on it. So for my UDM Pro, I have the 10 gig SFP plus going out over a direct attached copper cable to one of their aggregation switches and then go out from there. And if you go on my YouTube channel, I've got a whole video on the equipment rack right now. It got really crazy because I went, again, from having just a single switch to having like 5 things on my rack in there just to try to make use of my connection. So in a nutshell, the UDM Pro is really good for fast internet connections. If you don't have like a gigabit or more, then it's probably overkill in my opinion. But the UDM, the regular one's pretty good too. And Jeremy says, I just can't get over Comcast advice to rent their own hardware to get an accurate speed test. Isn't that funny? It's always of who we measure, right? Of whom we survey, kind of thing. Paul Jaron is here on Amazon. Thank you thank you for joining us. And Raymond Perez, thank you for the follow. And Jeremy, I'm not sure what speed you should be getting, or whether or not you've got land speed issues or internet problems. There's a lot of factors that go into it. So what I usually do is I usually pull everything off the network and just go straight into Ethernet to the router, see what I'm getting off of that, and then troubleshoot out from there is kind of how I do it. Thomas says he believes there are cable modems now that have built-in SFP plus ports. I believe that. And the direct attach copper cables are a really good way to interconnect those. Rasmus is here from Denmark. Hello. We're just waiting for this QNAP to finish installing itself. So once that's done, we can get moving. And it looks like it is done. So I'm going to log in real quick. And did I already forget my password? I didn't. OK, we're good. All right, continue. And they give me all my privacy notices and everything else. OK. And we are in. All right, so I will show you let's go through the tutorial here. It's funny, like it has the auto update disabled initially when you first log into it. And I'll show you what I'm seeing on my screen right here. Let me just get through this. I'm just going to skip all these things. Data collection agreement, OK. Oh, that's right, I got to set up the NAS to begin with. So what we're going to do now is set up the NAS. So right now we've got 2 drives installed on here. So we're good to go there. But we need to actually build out our volume. So we're going to create a volume. And we're going to just start here. I guess we got to say location, going to add a storage pool. I'm just going on autopilot here. I'm just going to say, yeah, whatever. Select and configure disks. We have no SSDs, but we do have, what is this? Hang on a second. Let me go back. What am I doing? Let me start this again. Oh, I see. So I want to do a thick volume, but I don't have enough drives for that. Oh, there we go. Never mind. OK, so we'll select these 2. And we're going to create this. So we got 2 drives. And again, we're going to have only 3.63 terabytes because I'm doing it as RAID 1 to mirror them. And we need to have that do its thing. And it looks like I said, there's 2, or somebody mentioned there's 2 SSD slots in there. So you could actually do some SSD caching. It's kind of neat what they've got there. Another Amazon reviewer says, great, maybe I'll look at the non-Pro. I haven't made up the jump yet because there's rumors of a Wi-Fi 6 version coming soon. Yeah, I believe that, there might be that happening. What I was doing with my original, because I had the original Dream Machine when I was on a slower connection, and I actually wasn't even using the Wi-Fi on it because I already had the Wi-Fi access points around the house, so I just linked those up and disabled the internal. But I have their Wi-Fi 6 on the ceiling over here, so I'm using that one. All right, we're going to let that finish up. Charles G says, Windows 10 can actually be a good NAS. Windows 10 is a lot better than... I'm very happy with Windows 10, to be honest with you. Got a super chat from Kazi. Thank you very much for that, by the way. And how's my brother's Starlink service going? Is he on YouTube yet? He's not yet done the YouTube thing. He does a lot on Facebook. So if you search for Rugged Ridge Forest on Facebook, you'll see him there. But the Starlink is working great. I've got to go back up there because, actually, to Jeremy's point on the Amazon chat, he's got some older he's got like an older Asus router up there, and the speed is not what it should be. And they've been pushing down a lot of firmware updates, so I suspect that he's probably going to be in their 400 megabit territory now. So we might fly back up there and get him kind of wired up with a new network, just to speed things up, because the router that he has right now is an older one, and the max he's getting, even on a wired connection, is only about 80 megabits. But we know that the Starlink was doing 120 when I was plugged in directly to it. So that is the next project, is to get his stuff updated a little bit. And he'd be a great candidate for some Unify stuff, including like one of their outdoor things there. And Jeremy, if you're curious, I have a series up on my YouTube channel. Let me find the link for it. Yeah, if you go to Lon.TV/gigpro, I have a whole series on what I did for my local network. And so I've got a whole bunch of videos on there. I'm just trying to make sure I've got them all. Yeah, so if you go to Lon.TV/gigpro, I didn't put them in the order in which they were published, but the order in which it's relevant for setting up a network. But check out that link, because I think that might be helpful, just to see what I did, because it's working fine. Like my network, I'm very happy with my network right now. So you can see that's the playlist there. All right, let's see how our QNAP is doing here. It looks like we're making progress. So now I thought I told it I wanted to, okay, here we go. All right, so let me go back to here, and we'll set this to max. So we're going to use the whole volume. We're going to call this QNAP test. I like to name it what it is, just so I know what it is. And I'm leaving all this as a default setting because I don't think I'll ever install that much storage on there. And we'll hit next here and finish. So now we'll have an accessible volume that I can access. And that's why, like, I think QNAP is a little more complicated when you first get started. They give you all the dials, and I don't think consumers need all the dials. It's good to have the dials there if you're an advanced user and know what you're looking for, but oops, let me go show you what that QNAP is looking like here. And I'm seeing it on the network now too, so I'm just going to connect to that. And again, the whole point of what I'm doing right now is just to get the demo done. And John Z's got another switch that he posted on the Amazon chat, which is the M208. Yeah, so this one's got more ports. And what does that one sell for? So that one's $600 with 8. Oh, those are all 10 gig ports now. That's cool. Yeah, so that's another one. They got a lot of choices, so you could really pick and choose what you're looking for. Oops. And it's not yet letting me connect to this drive, so I got to see what's going on here. Bear with me for 1 second, folks. Let's see. Oh, it's still formatting. Okay. It's making a lot of noise. Those drives are working. See that? Okay. So I think we're good to go. It's almost done. Redacted is here. Hello. Thanks for stopping in today. All right, so let's see if I can connect to this volume now. It's still not letting me connect with my Mac. Bear with me, folks. And like I said, I'm just trying to get into this thing so that I can do a quick demo from my Windows computer of transferring files. It might be that I haven't set the permissions on it. That could also be, oh, there we go. Now it's working. Okay, so now, if you look here, I am now connected to the QNAP, and I can make a new folder here if I wanted to. So I haven't actually created my shared files yet, so let me do that real quick. So let's go back to my web browser, and we'll set up a shared document there. Brad Wittenbaum is joining us. Happy Saturday to you as well. And Christian's going to the sauna. Enjoy that. It's good to do that on a Saturday. All right, so let me go back to this thing and figure out if I can add in. Yes, I have to spend a little bit more time with this because I am just not used to QNAP versus Synology, because I've been using Synology mostly. But they've improved things quite a bit. I think it's getting more intuitive. So now we're in, I'll show you what I'm looking at here. This is their file station. And bear with me, I'll show you what I see in a minute. All right, so I'm going to make I'd like to make a new volume on here. Almost there, folks. Just give me one more second here. I'm not sure what I'm doing. What I need to do is I just want to make a new volume. And whatever it did, it just disconnected my Mac from the network too. So we'll come back to that in a second. So Houdini left Synology for QNAP. And I'm curious, what were some of the reasons that you left? I'd like to know. Because I have always found Synology just to be a little more intuitive for me. It looks like a whole bunch of stuff is, I think this thing is still like doing stuff. And so what I'm looking for here is shared folders. Okay, this is what I was looking for. It's in the control panel. So I'm going to create a new shared folder. And I'm going to call this test. And we're going to assign it. So why isn't it letting me, see what I mean? Like, that's why I get confused with their stuff, because like it should, if I'm creating a shared folder, why can't I select the volume that I've just created? So that's what I run into with this stuff. I'm always like, it doesn't follow an intuitive path on the UI. And so that's what I run into with this quite often. Although maybe it's doing, what the heck is going on with this? It's beeping, it's telling me all sorts of stuff. Oh, it's got a space alert. Oh, because I allocated all the space, so that's why it's beeping me for that. All right, I'll figure this out. Will Burton, I have a MikroTik 9-port desktop switch and use the QNAP M4084C for my devices in my living room, TV, game console, and network streaming. What are my thoughts? Well, I would guess, Will, if it's working for it, here's my thing with everything. If it works, no problem. In fact, I am mixing QNAP and Synology and I'm mixing QNAP network gear with my UniFi stuff in the house here, and it works great. So I think if it works and you're happy with the performance, then you're in good shape. You know, like it's here now it's working. So that's what I would say, is that if you feel like you're getting the full speed and performance out of the network, and there are some disadvantages to mixing and matching things, you know, especially when you get into more advanced networking, as far as configuration is concerned and that sort of thing. Now you're kind of you're getting into a bunch of different buckets of configuration. You know, so what's nice about the UniFi stuff is that there's a central configuration point, and all the devices plugged into your UniFi system are interconnected. And so when I add a new Wi-Fi access point to my network, for example, on the UniFi, it automatically just absorbs all of the settings that the rest of the network is using. With this stuff, I've got to configure each switch. As far as I know, each switch has to be configured individually. So that could get a little bit more complicated if you have a lot of devices to manage. John Z loves Synology, but leaning towards switching to QNAP because there's more choice and features. They do have a lot more features on QNAP for sure. I'll definitely give you that. And Jeremy says, I used to be your average tech nerd back in the day, but now I'm your average consumer. Yeah, it's tough to keep up with this stuff. And I found the older I get, it's hard to find the time. You know, I'm lucky that I do this for a living now, so that helps. Got a super chat in from Houdini. So the PCIe slot on the QNAP and the ability to use M2 SSD as storage instead of cache was a game changer. That's true, because on Synology you can only use it for cache. I like the ability to get my third-party apps too. So that's a good reason. He has a 920 Plus. It's a very slick setup. Tech Nerd also has a 920 Plus. Yeah, it's a deep dive. And that's what I kind of like about these, though, is that you're getting a Linux server that's already configured. So you can download stuff and play around with it. It's all, you know, it's very much a point-and-play Linux solution. And it's a good way to get into some of the open source stuff in a way that I think is more approachable. I mean, it's getting easier if you download Ubuntu and stuff to get going, but I mean, it's really kind of a fun thing there to get started with that. All right, so let's go back to, Jeremy says, I'm only 31. It's really hard keeping up with tech. I'll tell you, the older you get, the more stuff gets in the way of playing around with tech. Now I've got 2 kids, and like by the time 5 o'clock, 5:30 rolls around, I'm done. I used to have the whole evening to tinker, right? No more. Those kids don't go to bed. You have to like move them along from each stage of the evening. Dinner, bedtime. If it's a bath night, we got to do the bath. And Tech Nerd says, yeah, this is true. I feel like a newbie every day. That's why I do these live streams, because you all know more than I do. Joe Ash is saying, I'm just a bit curious, what are you really talking about? I just came over to this page. We are just playing around with network speed today with a switch that I got. So what I typically do is I live stream when I'm getting things ready for a review shoot that I'm going to do. And today we're just messing around with this network switch that I'm going to review a little later on the channel. And it is tedious setup on the QNAP. But that's true of the Synology also. It does take some time to get going with it. Charles is wondering, is my family interested in technology? They are not to the extent that I am. My 2 girls are not that into it. My older one likes YouTube, as most kids do, but she's more interested in making content than the whole technology that goes into it. So I'm kind of a loner on the tech stuff in the house, and with my whole greater family at large too. I'm just kind of there. My father was a techie back in his day. He was an electrical engineer. He did work on the Apollo project. He was working on life support batteries and stuff. So like he began his career as an electrical engineer. He switched careers into being a business person, but he had that capacity. And my grandfather also was quite the techie back in his day. And he was, I'm talking back in the 1920s, he was a techie. He was kind of cool. My tech guy, Tim, liked the WMI Cloud EX2, but I have a QNAP that I got for free. And it's a 6-bay. Yeah, you can do a lot when you've got a 6-bay, especially for redundancy and data backups and stuff. All right, so we got this thing set up. And what I want to do, the whole point in doing this was to just copy a file from one thing to the next. So we're going to move the Mac out of the way now. And the reason we're moving the Mac out of the way is because I want to copy a file. And Windows has that, they have that thing that shows you like the speed of the data connection. So I thought that would be a better example to do that. So what I'm going to do here is move my gaming laptop into position because it has a Thunderbolt port on it. So we're going to get this thing set up real quick. All right. And what I'm going to do, I'm just trying to figure out the best logistics here. I'm going to hook up my other NDI box here. Okay, so we're going to plug this in. And this is my Lenovo gaming laptop that I bought last year. And so we're going to connect that and get this thing going. And I've got the NDI box booting up there. And again, the whole point in this is just to show a file copy. Got to keep it complicated. All right. So let me log into this. And then we're going to connect the 10 gig Ethernet here to that. All right, we're almost there. And for some reason, I'm not getting any Ethernet out of the back of this thing. Or HDMI, I'm sorry. And that is because we have it on the right port here. That's the loop. Okay, I gotta put the input. Okay, there we go. And that should give us, there we go. Okay, so now we've got the display output here. So we've got, oops, got that. We got the mouse moving, we're good. Okay, so now I'm going to connect the Thunderbolt NIC to the device. And that's going to connect. And I need to make sure that we're on that for our network. And the other thing you run into with PCs is that their Thunderbolt ports have all this security stuff around it. So sometimes you got to go in and actually activate the adapter. So let's see what's going on here. I'm actually going to connect this to the 2.5 port too, just to get that going at a good rate. Okay. And let's just make sure this thing is authorized. Yeah, so here's what happens. So it says do not connect. Well, we don't want to do not connect. And so you've got to do this all the time with Thunderbolt on Windows. And now we should see the Ethernet here pop up on the bottom of the screen in a second. And we'll wait for that to pop up. Yep, we're connected now. And I'll make sure that we're connected to the right device. Yes, I think we are good to go. All right, so now what we're going to do is I'm going to find a file on my existing NAS, and we're going to copy that file off. And we're going to do like a larger file so that it takes some time for it to transfer. And then we're going to move that file after we download it. We're going to move it over to my other NAS is what we're going to do. If that makes sense to everybody. Yeah, bear with me for 1 second here, folks. All right, there we go. Charles G's got to go. Well, thanks for stopping in. Oops. And sorry, everybody, I'm just getting everything configured here. And We have a visitor from Germany. I visited Berlin not that long ago, before all this pandemic stuff happened. I loved it. I really enjoyed visiting Germany. Okay. And we're going to I have to get my password for my NAS. I have been doing like a real like internal security audit of everything. So right now I'm moving everything over to individual passwords on LastPass. I've got two-factor authentication set up everywhere. I've been a nut about it, but I just wanted to lock everything down in a better way than I had it. But now I've got to log into my password manager just to get the password for the NAS on the local network because I've been very diligent. So I'm just going to go in and look that up real quick. Got a super chat from my tech guy, Tim. Do I have an affiliate link for the UniFi 6 Lite access point? Yes. Do I have an affiliate link for it? I think if you click on, I'm trying to think, if you go to the review that I did of it on YouTube, there's an affiliate link there. So if you look up my review of that one, the UniFi 6 Lite, you'll see an affiliate link that goes over. The problem, though, is I don't know if they're selling it on Amazon yet. And UniFi doesn't do affiliate links on their store. Let me see if it's on here. UniFi 6 Lite. Let's see. Yes, it's selling for $265 on Amazon. So I'm not sure if that, I think it's less than that. Yeah, it's not being sold by Amazon directly. So yeah, I would just get the best price. I appreciate your super chat, by the way, and I appreciate your willingness to support, but I don't want you to pay more than you need to. So yeah, if you find it on Amazon, go for it. Okay. Mr. Fester, any price drops on these yet? Not yet, but they're selling at reasonable prices, I think. Like this one, the desktop version of this one is like $300. All right, let me go pick up my thing here. Copy password. And then I'm going to paste it in here. I didn't like that. Oh, because I didn't change the username. All right, hang on, everybody. Bear with me, everybody. My security is so good, I can't get into my own stuff. I did that too. Oh, there it is. Shoot. Hang on a second. And then I've got like a million different things running on that NAS, all with their own passwords, which are all also unique. So it's just it's a you know what. I have a good system of tracking all of these things, but it's just a good old mess. There we go. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I am going to copy a file from my YouTube backup, kind of a larger file. So I think what I'll do is I'll pick the largest video that I've got. Yeah, here's a good one. So this is a 7 GB file. Let me just make sure I got enough room on this computer for that. I've got 22 gigs free. So I'm going to pull this up here. So this was the video of my trip out to SpaceX for their launch of the Falcon Heavy. And that's the one we're going to copy. If you haven't watched that video, it was a lot of fun to see that in person. Okay. So we're going to start copying this. What I am going to do, though, let me pull up the screen here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit on the screen so that we can get a better B-roll shot of that. So let's go to position here. I'm just going to just zoom it in so we just get a little bit more of what I'm looking for here. Okay, so now we're going to hit record, and now I'm going to copy this file over. And I'm going to move this into position. And make note of this right here. So you can see that it's copying right now at 112, 114 megabytes per second. And that's off my existing gigabit NAS. So you see how long that takes? 7 gigs is a big file, but that's gigabit. And then what should happen is when we go to copy the file onto the NAS connected to the 2.5 gigabit network, or a 2.5 gigabit switch, we should see it transferring at a faster speed. So we'll let that finish. And because I'm recording, I can map out the time that it took to transfer too. So you could look at it in time or megabytes or whatever. But it should be half the time when we copy the file back. Okay, so that's here. So now we've got the file. So now we're going to connect to the QNAP device that we've just installed here on the LAN. And then we're going to copy this file back. So we're going to go to my QNAP 25. And I'm going to stick it in the test folder. All right, so now let's go back here. We're going to hit record again, and we're going to copy it. And look at the speed now. Oh, yeah. Well, now we're looking at like drive I/O issues here, right? And this might be due to the I/O of the drive. This is not a good example. There it goes. So now it's getting me thinking, should we try a Blackmagic disk speed test to see what's driving that, right? What's the maximum throughput of this QNAP? But you can see we are getting a faster throughput. So there you go. Now what I want to do, just to make sure it's not a one-way problem, sometimes you get these one-way issues, so let me just delete the file locally here. And let's recopy it from the server. Because it might read a little faster than it writes. Yeah, so there you can see now we're hitting 200 megabytes per second. But yeah, it's still chugging away around the same speed. So I bet you there's some issues with the maximum speed of the drives installed. We might be hitting the limit of those. And remember, we're not striping on this disk. So yeah, look at that. So the mirroring could result in some of these speed gotchas here. So I might want to do set it up as a RAID 0. That might give us some better performance. See what we discover, right? So there you go. Will Burton says if you have an SSD on the laptop, yeah, actually the laptop does have an SSD. It's the speed of the drives. So let's take a look at my Blackmagic disk speed test. And I just want to get a feel for the RAID 1 performance here. And that it could just be that it's the way these drives are configured. But you can start to see like some of the issues that you're going to run into with these things. And now I'm thinking I may want to buy a couple of SSDs for this thing. All right, so we'll run the Blackmagic disk speed test here, and we'll get a better look at everything. Yeah, so we're seeing the same thing we were just seeing a second ago, right? So it's got to be disk I/O. Yes, that's totally disk I/O. So if I set this to RAID 0, we might see it be a little more consistent. It's reading a lot faster though, isn't it? And it could be that it's caching up what it wrote. That's definitely a disk I/O thing. So why don't we go and it's becoming a lot more complicated than I anticipated. Because do I have SSDs I could put in here? I do have SSDs I could put in this thing, don't I? Let me see what I got for SSDs. Bear with me for a second here. I've got stuff all over the place. So what I could do I got one of these. Let's see. Yeah, I think what I'm going to do is put some SSDs in this thing. Not right now because I'm running out of time. But I think that would improve performance. But to make our demo work better, I am thinking about how I can demo things better. And I think what I'm going to do is configure my Mac on the other side of the room there, which has, because what I want to do is just demo what this would look like. And you can see here where you kind of hit the limits of, we've got a device that's capable of running faster, but we're hitting the limits, right, of the disk I/O. And you can see all the different factors that come in to speed if we have things configured a certain way. So why don't we, let's reconfigure the RAID. Why don't we do that? And so we'll do a RAID 0. And I forgot the IP address of my QNAP device. So let me go figure out what that is real quick. All right, now to go find the IP of this thing real quick. So bear with me. Let me just get my Unify app up here and find the IP address of that device. And we'll see if switching it into, switching it into that other mode will be faster. There it is, 108. Okay. Oops, wrong IP. I have so much stuff on my network, it's crazy. All right, so we're going to go pop into this QNAP. And what we're going to do is we're going to kill the volume. And it's going to give us all these things that it doesn't like me doing about that. We're going to kill the volume, and then we're going to rejigger the whole thing. So here is our storage pool here. So it's a thick volume, as they say. Oh, you know what else is going on? Ah, that's right. So right now, it is still, yeah, that's what's going on here. So what's happening right now with the NAS is that it is doing its synchronization to get both drives into sync, and this takes a while. So part of the review will be looking at the speed with 2 spinning drives in, and we really can't test it accurately until that's done. So why don't we let that do its thing? I'm just going to let it sit here for the next 9 hours and do that. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to get I'm trying to think about what I've got hooked up with Gigabit. So I have the computer upstairs, and I've got the one down here, and I've got my Mac over in the corner. So what I think I'll do is have this fire off a file to the Mac over there. And I think that will at least give us the ability to see kind of a true 2.5 gig file transfer. And the Mac here has a 2.5 gig card on it as well. It's an older iMac, but it's fast enough to support that speed. And when I went to the 2.5 gig service, I switched the Mac over to that. So let me go into my network settings here. You can't see what I'm doing just because I'm in another part of my office here. And I'm going to go to sharing. And I've got file sharing on. And I've got SMB sharing activated. So I think if I hit my Mac with that IP address, I should be able to get in there and transfer the file that way. So let's try that out real quick. And I spilled my water all over the floor. Okay, so Grayson says, at least my microphone stays with me. Yeah, I've got my, my Sennheiser AVX that I use, which has been a great microphone system. And it works great here in the studio, and it works equally well on the road. So it's been a great part of my workflow. Oh, hey, that worked. How about that? Okay, so now I'm going to copy this to my downloads folder on that Mac. So let's try that out. I'm just going to make a new folder here. Hopefully I got enough room on that Mac. We'll see. Okay, so we're going to repeat the test here. And let's go back to here and take, I love you, Grayson, but I got to take you off here. And we're going to copy this over and move this out of the way, hit record. So now you can see that's what you should be getting. See that? So that's like a true 2.5 gig file transfer. So you saw it was going about 115 from the other NAS, and then that Mac is taking it over a USB adapter at 284 megabytes per second. So that's the demo. Done. So I got everything I needed there. And the other thing that this can do is that there's a web-based control panel that we can log into real quick. And the password for it is the MAC address, apparently. So let me go 192. And then the password. And that's another thing you'll want to change is the password of the device here. And the MAC address is where? I'm guessing on the bottom? Yes, it is on the bottom. Yes, so here's the password. So it's 24. And I'm pretty sure I have seen, see, my eyes are awful. Let me type this in again. Okay, there we go. Oh, didn't like that. They don't make it easy. And you can't see what you're typing in either, so it's like even harder. My eyes are, I gotta get glasses. They're getting really bad. All these years in front of the screen, and it's finally catching up with me. Did that do it? It is not letting me in. Default username. Let's try this one more time. 2, 4, 5. Okay, so now, so it is asking me to do a new password, so that's good. So now I'll do one that I can actually remember for now. Okay. All right, so let's try this again. Okay. So we are in, and I'm just looking through here to make sure it's got, yeah. So, and I have seen this before on my other switch that I have from them. So this is a managed switch. So if I switch over to this, you can see what we've got plugged in. So we've got a 2.5 and a 2.5 and a 10. And if I move, so this is my 10 gig adapter. So if I move the adapter from here to here, I think I got the right one here, do I? Maybe not. Nope, I didn't. Hang on. This is the one here. So if I move this from here to here. Yep, that was what I was looking for. There we go. Now we're running at 10. And if I restart the browser here, Got to log in again because it's kind of nice. It'll drop you out. So now that we're back here, now that I moved it, you can see now we're at 10 gigs. And then you can go to port management, and you can dive in and say, okay, I want this port to run at whatever. You can disable or enable flow control. That might be helpful if you've got some crazy configuration. I had to do that on my UniFi switch. You can automatically set the speed of each of these ports. You've got VLAN tagging. You have link aggregation, so you can do that link aggregation stuff there. You have RTSP. You have LLDP. You have your IGMP snooping. If you want to snoop around a little bit, you can do that. Got your QoS. So that might be a way. There was a question earlier about QoSing some of their network stuff. John Z has some good comments on the Iron Wolf drives. Yeah, I think I've got those 7,200 RPM Iron Wolves in here. So once this thing settles down, I think we'll get a better idea of its performance. But I might want to get, for the full review, I might want to go with the SSDs and see what the maximum like RAID 0 speed would be of 2 NVMe SSDs in there, wouldn't I? So that might be something I consider. You see how it goes around here? Like you get something in and it's like, okay, what else do I need to properly run through this product? And I know I'll get questions about, can you do a link aggregation? That's a good question. And if you did link aggregation, how can you make the most out of that, out of the speed, which would be only SSDs? You need that throughput, right? So that's a real factor there. We got our system settings here. Firmware update. Let's check for an update. Is there one? Nope, it's up to date. So that's the kind of the overview of the control panel. It's your basic level 2 switch. You know what's also nice about it too is that you get these really helpful charts. They give you like a real-time view as to what's consuming what. So you can see if you've got something that's spitting out a lot of data, you can actually figure out what port it's on. So that can be pretty useful. Now what I want to do, because I'm kind of like evaluating two things at once here. I'm curious as to whether or not both of these are 2.5 gigabit ports. So I'm just going to switch the port order here and wait for that to reconfigure itself. There we go. And yeah, both of those. So both ports on the back of this, it's got two 2.5 gigabit ports on the back. I'll show you what it looks like on the back. See, it's got 2, and they're both 2.5 gig. So all the more reason to explore the SSD thing, right? Because if we've got the capability to aggregate 5 gigabits, right? 2.5 gigs will give you 5. Can you aggregate that on the back? And if you could do that, that's worth looking at. Now, my theory with that is that because we've got a 10 gig connection on this switch, I could have the computer hooked up to the 10 and then pull the full 5 out of this, if I'm not mistaken. You guys tell me if I'm right or wrong about that. Okay. Cluvid says, do you enable flow control? That's a personal question. Actually, no, it would vary. So I have flow control enabled on my aggregation switch for the UniFi stuff. And the reason is that I was interconnecting a switch at 10 gigabits, but the switch that I was interconnecting supported 2.5, 5, and 10. The UniFi switch only supports 10. So I enabled flow control so that when I have a 2.5 gig adapter maxing itself out, it wasn't getting all out of whack. So I don't think you would need that on this switch because it's auto-negotiating properly. So that's my theory on that. Houdini, I don't think I thanked you for your super chat, so thank you for that. And I'm going to take off in a minute here. Give me a second here. I just gotta look up something real quick. Pull my Mac up here for a second. Where did I put the Mac? There's the Mac. Ugh. Yeah, I'm starting to feel fine, but I'm definitely feeling a little little run down today. So I'm probably going to go chill out for the rest of the afternoon here. Just looking up one thing on this real quick. And I'm trying to catch up with some of your chats. I want to make sure I didn't miss any other super chatters, so bear with me here, folks. And I might be back tomorrow with another one. I've got one of those magazines to open up. We've done a few of those. And let's see what else we got here. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I didn't miss any other chats here that I want to get to. Viewer activity. Okay, we're good there. Okay, great. All right. So Grayson says, can I really mount the QNAP? Yeah, we looked at that a little bit earlier. So the way you would rack mount the QNAP is through this metal bar that they included with it. Where did I put it? So this is what happens. I start putting things down, and then I lose track of them. Oh, here it is. So the way this rack mounts, and I've got to do this in the full review, you put this bar on this side, and then you've got a rack mountable QNAP. And then they have a way to attach two of them together. So you could do that, or you got to use this big bar here to be able to fit it in there. So it's going to, if you like a certain look to your equipment rack, you're not going to like this because it's got like this, all the stuff is on the right or left-hand side. There's no way to put it in the middle. So be aware of that. All right, let me scroll up here a little bit more, see if I missed anything. Some discussions of the LG OLEDs. Yeah, I have the B9, whatever mine is, it's the B1. So it's from like 3 or 4 years ago. So what bums me out about it is that I don't get Apple TV Plus, which I have like that demo that they give you for like 8 months or a year or whatever. I haven't paid for it yet, but I just keep getting re-upped. I guess whenever I buy an Apple whatever, they just give you more time on it. So in my second shot day of rest yesterday, I was binging For All Mankind, but I had to watch it through my Xbox. I've got like all this stuff hooked up to the TV, and the only thing that can play Apple TV Plus is my Xbox, which is crazy. Go figure that. So there you go. I've got an Apple TV. I just don't want to have to hook up another thing to that television. I just want to watch it on I want it on my NVIDIA Shield is what I want. That's what I really want. Okay. All right, everybody. I am going to go get myself a snack and take the dog out for her second walk and chill out. And yeah, I think Samsung is switching to OLED, right? They kind of gave up on their stuff there. So Jeremy in the Amazon chat says, I'm going to start my maple syrup farm. Just kidding. Wish your brother good luck and tell him us Minnesotans would love to have his maple syrup. He's happy to sell it to you. In fact, he just got done pulling the sap out of the trees for this season. So he's got a fresh batch getting made right now. So have at it. But I am very happy. What do we want in the I want Apple TV Plus on my Shield. That's what I want on my Shield. But I am very, very happy with my LG OLED TV. It's the best TV I've ever owned, ever. And I've had a lot of TVs over the years, but I love that LG OLED. And it looks good still. I mean, I could get the new CX or whatever, which has the faster frame rate and everything else. Maybe it's a little bit brighter, but I just don't like the idea of buying a new TV like every year, right? But it's just annoying that I actually use the TV's apps for most of what I watch, and I have a HDMI ARC going back to my receiver, and that's worked really well. And I get everything except Apple TV Plus. And if I had a newer LG set, I'd get it, but the one that I have, which isn't even that old, doesn't have it. Just annoying. Mac Mini, 8 gig or 16 gig, get the 16. Just because you can't upgrade it, so you may as well get it. You may as well get what the Mac's in there right now. And then Edar, another good point is all these standards keep changing too. That's the other issue. Yes, it's just total craziness. So there you go. Well, the good news is I have achieved what I was hoping to achieve here, which is to get this thing set up, get this thing set up, and get the footage that I needed for the review that I'm going to shoot of the Switch here, maybe tomorrow if I'm feeling up to it, which I probably will be. And then Monday's wrap-up is going to be about, it's going to be all about my Pfizer shot. I'm going to give you a review of my shot. Why not, right? That'd be kind of fun. So that's what we're going to do. All right, everybody. Well, I appreciate everyone tuning in and giving you a portion of your day. I greatly appreciate you all popping in and doing that. And I will be back again before you know it, maybe even tomorrow, so we'll see. So set your notifications, and I will be back again soon. And yeah, I drank a lot of Gatorade yesterday. I don't usually drink anything but water, and I drank a whole Gatorade. That's a big deal for me. So, in any event, that's it for today. So I'm going to go take the dog for a walk and chill out for a bit, and I will catch you all on the flip side, which is likely tomorrow or probably Monday. So have a good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for watching. Bye-bye.